Bismarck Rawani, the CEO at Financial Derivatives Company, says 2019 is the year pregnant with expectations. But just before we go back to the new year that is just ahead of us, part of the unfinished business of 2018 is the consumers market. The new minimum wage did not really materialize. There were discussions and fights and squabbles about what should be the new minimum wage. Even the last 24 hours, the Forum of Governors accusing the NLC of bad faith in trying to force the 30,000 naira down their throats. But all of that, good news in 2018 was that your per capita income moved up by some inches in dollar terms. Let's throw that to Bismarck Rawani here to give us the numbers. The consumer market is where everybody wants to feel whether the GDP is growing or whether the population has been balanced with our GDP growth and your per capita. That's what I take to the market.
Yes. So
let's unpack that page. I found that very interesting.
Two things happened. GDP is 447 billion. Our population, 180. So you divide one by the other, you get 2,284. But the currency value kind of appreciated technically from 520 all the way to 3. So that's what you're seeing there.
So that's where my per capita income is about 2,284.
But you see, the thing is, you talked about the minimum wage. The effective date of the minimum wage, you can negotiate from now till God knows, but the effective date becomes the date the negotiation started. So you could still have it in 2018 if you say the effective date was November or October, and then you pay some arrears. But let's look at it. 30,000 naira means what in dollar terms? The minimum wage in South Africa is 126,480 naira. And that's an economy which is smaller than ours. An economy that went into recession and came out in 1 quarter. So life expectancy in Nigeria, which is what you use your money to get to well-being, life expectancy, we are the 4th lowest in the world, 54.1 years, 4th lowest. Sierra Leone has the lowest, 52.3. In Ghana, the life expectancy is 64 years. So if you were born in Ghana and born in Nigeria, the Ghanaian guy will have lived 10 years longer than his Nigerian counterpart. And that's what wages are nominal. What you do with the money is what you're feeding, your health, care, and your education.
That's why the spending on healthcare is very important. $80 per head.
What we found that consumer confidence in Nigeria is down 9% to 60.8 because the consumer feels desperate, right? Is under pressure in traffic, is under pressure in terms of security, is under pressure in so many things. So banding growth numbers without talking about the quality of life, the human social development indicators is normal. Absolutely not. So it's an exercise in futility. But again, come back to the average price of petrol for this consumer is about 150 naira, 156 naira per liter, while in fact the official price is 145 naira. But diesel, national average is 219, but in Lagos it's 260 naira because you're using it for power, using it for transportation. So the consumer in 2018 had a raw deal, had a very raw deal.
Okay. So with all this raw deal is where we're stepping into the brand new year, and the best way to look at the new year is that because of the tiptoeing into the election year. Of course, I think the gloves are off already.
Yeah, okay.
The gloves are off on all sides. So it looks like a turbulent political period for a takeoff. So fasten your seatbelt, everyone. This is the turbulent Q1 takeoff for 2019 starting today, the 1st of January 2019.
Yes, 2019, January 19, there's a presidential debate, right? And that's going to be huge. You have the MPC meeting a week after. You have the minimum wage issue, right? And you have the campaigns. The campaigns are out there. Everybody that posters, and posters being torn down, and posters being put back up, and all that. So it's an election year, but it's, again, it's an election like a cassava republic election. People are not being engaged. There's an indifference curve, what we call economic indifference curve. People are indifferent, they are uninterested, unenthusiastic because they are thinking of bread and butter issues.
Let's look at this list again. The first one about January, which your team put together, is debate, campaigns, MPC meeting, minimum wage. It looks like that's the order in which folks will be interested, or what will be the headline grabbers.
No, minimum wage number 1.
If folks need the money.
Yes, they need money. MPC meeting number 2.
So the NLC, you think, will start making more noise?
Yes, they'll make more. Oh, yes, you're going to have that. From today, we got to resolve that. We got to put that to bed.
Okay.
Right? And what's the impact? What's the economic impact of minimum wage? If you are increasing wages without productivity, of course, what you're doing is increasing money supply.
So you think the minimum wage conversation will muddle up or will increase the noise on the streets around the debate and the campaigns?
You got to pay it anyway, right? You got to pay it because you are supposed to review it every 5 years.
You got to pay it, but how soon you pay it is what the NLC is interested in.
An effective date. You cannot, if you negotiate, you got to honor your part of the deal. But then the impact, the implementation of this is important. What's the impact of this? Because you are going to be increasing what we call money illusion. You are going to be increasing the cash in the pocket, but the inflation will eat it up. So there are certain things you have to do about it. So that's January. In February, you have the elections, you have the Q4 GDP report, you have the inflation report as well. You will have an inflation report in January, but another one. And then you have the elections. In March, you are going to have petitions, protests, and demonstrations, and going to the electoral tribunals. So that's the first quarter for you. Nothing much will happen in the economy apart from the minimum wage and the MPC.
Yeah, the president issued a press release of the new year. He didn't do a televised message for the first time, I think, in recent years. 17 paragraphs. And I think most of the paragraphs were devoted to the elections.
Yes.
And more of that from paragraph 1 was more about the elections. Not much about the economy until towards somewhere around paragraph 11. Also, so elections seem to take a little bit less of the consideration here because, economics is much more about.
Now, so when we go into Q2.
Yes.
Now, so we have 4 distinct quarters. Q1 is about election and Q2 is about petitions and going to court and swearing in. Then Q3 is about congratulations and appointments, and then the real work begins in Q4. So you're going to be gasping at the end of 2019 because we spent all the time electing ourselves without doing so much work.
Okay, so how do we fasten our seatbelt
let me tell you what it's going to happen.
The economy in 2019? Whatever happens, the NLC will have to get some minimum wage done. We have to fix petrol subsidy. We have to fix electricity tariffs.
Absolutely.
We have to fix a number of these issues
Let me tell you what our predictions are. 1, GDP growth will be 1.9%, 1.8% if you are lucky. And while the global growth is 3.7%, we are going to be investing only $6 billion in capex for the country, which is about 1.1% of your GDP, where we should be doing about 11 to 12%. Our deficit is going to be, our revenues are going to be sharply lower because we think oil prices, you have a benchmark price of 60, today oil price is at 53. So that's the first time we've had a spot price below the benchmark. The benchmark is supposed to be a floor. Now the floor has become a ceiling. Now, deficit will be 3 trillion. The subsidy gap, in the budget, we put a subsidy of 305 billion, while in fact we have spent 1.3 trillion this year, which means that it is clear that whoever comes into government, no matter who wins, their price of petrol is going to go by at least 25%. So we are looking at petrol price of 176.
Nigerians should prepare for a new petrol price that is looking like something on the screen.
Yes.
176 to 200.
So
because the administration is thinking under recovery.
Yes. I mean, we can't hide from it. Now, the currency itself will come under pressure. So get ready for the fact that the currency will come under pressure. The worst case scenario is that we have a 10% depreciation. This 36 naira added to 360.
Most likely when? After the elections?
Q4, Q3. There'll be a supplementary budget because this budget is going nowhere. A supplementary budget in which we will increase our investment and spending by about 20%. Subsidies will be cut. Minimum wage will kick in. More contractor debt will be securitized during the year. And the currency adjustment is inevitable in Q4 because the price of oil is going to come down. That's it. That's the raw truth.
Okay. All of this will be taken to work by whoever becomes
the president.
The president and his team. So that takes us to, whichever way folks look at it, it brings us all into the market about the economy and the financial markets.
There's work to be done.
How do you think the financial markets will handle that? Let's add it together.
Let me tell you what. The stock market, the bearish sentiment will continue in Q1, but for this is the time to buy. Q2, Q3, Q4, you're going to have a rally. There'll be a post-election rally. There'll be MTN listing, I think. And then you're going to have a market that's going to rally. And so there's lots of money to be made in the stock market after it reverses its trend. And the time to go in is now. Naira liquidity will increase on the back of minimum wage review and post-election spending. And how will this affect you? Like we said, wage relief Go to the next slide. Wage relief, but more pain. You know, that kind of thing where you take the booster shot, you take that injection, there's pain, there's relief, but there's pain.
It hits you.
Yeah, and you could be allergic to it. But how does it affect you? We think that the price of rice will go up by at least 10%, right? Right now it's about 15,000. It's going to go to 16,500.
It is where my new minimum wage will go.
Yeah. Your beans is going to go up by 10% to 22,000, and Gary will be up to 7,500. Tomatoes up also by, so we have a 10% across the board thing. But for white products, that is your refrigerators, your television, and your cooker, all of these things are going up by 15%. Your refrigerator with 250,000 naira, the big one. The television set 32 inches will be 92,000.
Should I buy a new generator today?
Yes.
Maybe I shouldn't.
And your cooker, 59,800. Oh. Now, how does this affect you for your transport fares?
Yes.
Transport fares, Abuja to Lagos up 82,000, going by air, return. Rent in Lagos will be up another 10%. In Lagos mainland, you're looking for a good size 4-bedroom apartment, 1 million naira a year. Medical bills will be up by 17%. Basic lab test up to about 10,000 naira. And if your child is in Corona elitist, you'll be paying about 425,000 naira a term. Yeah. So things that will change. Minimum wage will be reviewed upwards. Mobile payment system will revolutionize the telcos and financial institutions. Put the banks at a competitive disadvantage. Banks will lay off redundant staff during the year. Nigeria will remain, things that will not change. Clear, Nigeria will remain an oil-dependent nation, even though the rhetoric is about diversification. The economic growth will lag population growth, definitely. Population is 2.6. Over 40% of Nigerians will remain below the poverty line, so poverty will still be an issue. And fuel subsidy will remain a politically sensitive issue, but we have to deal with it or it will stink us.
Okay. A quick one. When you're pregnant with expectations,
yes,
how much work and how quickly should things change to press that change button in 2019?
Look, talk is cheap. I can say all the change I want to change. But you see, change does not mean positive change. It does not guarantee you positive change. You know, a change, if you go from 3 to 2, you have changed. You're going down backwards, right? So what we are looking for is positive change, sustainable change, and accelerated change to catch up so that we can become competitive. So some things won't change. Some things could change. And what are the things that could change? The structure of the foreign exchange market, if we head towards full convertibility, because someday, sometime, we're going to come there. Because of mobile payment system with telcos, you are accelerating that process. So banking competition from the telcos and the fintech companies, right? The fact that currency, money is fungible means that we are going to head towards full convertibility sometime. Tighter monetary policy could be adopted, but then the stock market will actually move forward. So,
okay, we have quite a lot to discuss, but again, we need to talk about very important year, 2020. We'll have your first word when we come back after the break. This is T-1 year, the year 2020. 365 days. Let's roll it forward.